Welcome to Canadian Innovators, the show that celebrates innovation, entrepreneurs, and the Canadian spirit. I'm Steve Foxcroft. Every week, we introduce a new entrepreneur or expert in their field to tell their story. And today, I'm excited to introduce the audience to Barry Forth, General Manager of Copetown Woods Golf Club. Thanks for joining us, Barry, on Canadian Innovators.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For the audience, because this is national, so tell the audience where to find Copetown Woods.
Yeah, what I always say is Copetown is kind of in the center of a triangle between Hamilton, Brantford, and Cambridge. So we're part of the greater city of Hamilton, about an hour west of Toronto.
And it's a public course, right?
Fully public, 100% public, no members, opened in 2003, and no members since, and no foreseeable future will we have members.
Okay, sounds good. So basically, if you're in the Hamilton, GTA, Niagara Peninsula, Copetown Woods has to be on the radar.
It's yes, it should be.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what we want.
If it's not, I haven't been doing my job.
There you go. Now, speaking of your job, it's a family business.
Yeah.
Tell us how it got started, because I understand you guys were farmers before you were golf club owners.
Yeah, so I think we're we can officially be told that we're the only golf course in the world that was built by broccoli. So my dad and uncle were broccoli farmers. So I grew up right across the road from the current golf course. That's where our main farm was. 300 acres on the north side of the road, 200 acres on the south side of the road, which is where the golf course sits. And as my dad and uncle were farming, specifically that piece of property that was on the south side of the road, the 200 acres, it wasn't a great property for growing vegetables. So really sandy soil, not overly conducive to growing vegetables. Really, the yield was never that great. I grew up as the youngest of 5. I have 4 older sisters, so I was supposed to be the chosen one to be a farmer. That was never going to happen. I worked on the farm growing up my entire life, but it was just not something that was going to happen. And so as I moved on, went to college, went to Durham College, took sports management, and then at that point, I think I was in maybe my second year, my dad had just started golfing. He never really had a whole lot of time during the summer because he was farming. Blew out his knee playing baseball. Anyhow, started golfing right in the kind of that late 90s Tiger boom era, and kind of started going around to courses, and wasn't overly impressed with maybe how they were maintained or how the facilities were or the service, and said, well, instead of selling this piece of property, maybe we can do something different. So he asked me, again, late 90s, what would you think? And of course, somebody that was going to school for sport management, that was certainly exciting. And one thing kind of that conversation led to a few years of planning and zoning changes, and then we officially opened the golf course in 2003.
So you mentioned you must be athletes then. You mentioned your dad took up golf later in life, so he was an athlete. Were you an athlete as well growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I like, my kids are old enough now to realize that I wasn't actually an athlete, but I tried to tell them I was. My dad, he always played hockey and baseball. That's what I played growing up. Played golf a little bit, but was never an avid golfer. We're not a golf family. This is kind of where a lot of people maybe assume that golf has always been in our family, or it's in our blood. We opened the golf course with zero experience and really no understanding of even the golf industry, to be honest. And that's the nice thing about the golf industry and what we do. I kind of joke all the time that we're not splitting the atom. It's, if you go somewhere and it's, you're looking for good service, good facilities, the product needs to be there and needs to be good. That's the secret behind it. There's really no secret.
You mentioned there was 2 sides of the road, really, 200, 300 acres. Did you use both when you opened up, or did one stay as farming and then you got into the golf on the other side?
Yeah, one stayed as farm. So the golf course opened in 2003, and my dad and uncle still farmed on the other side, still farmed that 300 acres up until 2014, and then sold it at that point. And and then my dad, the main farm where he lived, sold the farm, built a house on the golf course now, and now I'm doing my best to inch him into retirement.
Inch him in, it sounds good. What about your sisters? How were they with all of this?
So when we first opened, 2 of my older sisters, the 2 closest in age to me, they started out as food and beverage manager. The one did. She had, went on mat leave, had her first daughter. And then my other sister came and took over her role as food and beverage manager. And then they almost perfectly. My dad probably, told them they had to alternate their mat leaves perfectly. But once they each had their second child, they both moved away from the business, and so I'm the last fourth standing.
That sounds great. Family affair for sure. We're going to take a quick break. More with Barry Forth when we return on Canadian Innovators. We're back on Canadian Innovators. Well, the weather's finally starting to turn. It's getting to where it's golf season, and who better to have in studio than Barry Forth, the general manager of Copetown Woods Golf Course. Barry, thanks again for coming in this week to talk to us because it is golf season. You told us a story about how the family got the golf course going, and you were part of it back then, but you actually left the family business for a while. Tell us about that.
I did, yeah. So in 2010, kind of where that started, in 2010, a neighbor of mine came to me and asked me if I'd ever heard of a program called Craft Hockeyville. And so I said, well, I've heard of it. It's, just watch it on Hockey Night in Canada and everything. And so long story short, she asked me to help her and take on the role of being the chair to try and get Dundas, Ontario, where I live, to be part of Craft Hockeyville. So again, long story short, we started that process out. There was about 950 other towns in Canada that entered to win, and we did everything to make Canada believe that Dundas was Craft Hockeyville. We won Craft Hockeyville, hosted the Sabres and Senators in our 979-seat arena in Dundas, and it was at that moment where I met the agency that was working on behalf of Craft in the NHL. I said, this is what you do. This is your job. You get to go and run events like this. And I always had a passion for running events. And so it was at that point, after going through that experience, that I said to my dad, I want to go and look to do something different. I didn't want to be the person that was sitting in that general manager's office because his dad owned it. I wanted to have that, the experience and the reason to be the boss and to take it on. And so I left and went to a sports marketing agency working in downtown Toronto. Essentially from 2013 to 19, managed all different types of sports properties. Started out Shaw Communications at the time. They were in professional golf as a sponsor with the Canadian Open and some players. Managed those relationships. Got Shaw involved with the CFL. Became the presenting partner of the Grey Cup. So I managed Shaw's relationship with the CFL and the PGA Tour. And then eventually, the last 4 years I was there, I oversaw and directed RBC's global golf portfolio. So anything to do with the RBC Canadian Open, the RBC Heritage in Hilton Head, and Team RBC, which is made up of 20 PGA and LPGA Tour players. Managed all those relationships and ran 30 to 40 events across North America at some of the best golf courses. And during that whole process, it was always the thought. I always knew that I would go back.
Okay.
Knew that I would go back to the golf course.
Because that's what I'm thinking. I'm going, wow, you're developing this great career and everything like that, but the family business is sitting there as well, and must have been a tough decision to leave. But I really, what you said about you were in the general manager's office and chair. You didn't want to be there just because you were the son. Yeah. Because I think as a son sometimes, and I can relate to this, you got to be twice as good to be considered average too.
Absolutely.
So was that part of it? You wanted to break away from that and establish yourself. You wanted to be Barry.
I did. I wanted to, kind of chart my own course, and obviously having that as something to fall back on is incredible, and to be able to have that opportunity that that my dad and uncle provided to to me and to my siblings is incredible. But again, I didn't want to. I was never born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I worked on the farm. I worked, 7 days a week. And, I tell these stories now, like, I was born in born in the 20s, but, like when I explain this stuff to my kids. So
how do your kids react to that now? Do they just go, okay, Dad, we've heard this before?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Uphill both ways, right?
Yeah, exactly. But your kids are doing well too. They're in they're building a career and opportunities.
Yeah, my oldest son is he's in the second year, just finished his second year of university in sport management. My next son, Oliver, he's going to head to university next year, and my daughter, she'll just be she's just finishing grade 10. So all three work in the business. All three, they spend their summers working at the golf course, and they're treated no differently than any other staff member. They get no additional perks. They don't, it's again. you've got to be twice as good to be average.
Yeah, and you're cutting your own teeth.
Yes.
Just quickly before we go to break, though, your dad and your sisters, when you said, I'm going off to do Craft Hockeyville,
Yeah.
were they okay with that?
Yeah, I think at first it was, sure, go ahead
Yeah.
and go do what you want, and it was a volunteer position over the winter. And then once everything came to fruition, I think it was okay. Now I get it.
They were good with it.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the things I want to talk about when we come back is some out-of-the-box thinking, because the worst thing when you're out playing golf is the pace of play. But Barry has done some things to solve it. He's an innovator. That's why he's here on Canadian Innovators. More with Barry when we return. Welcome back, joined by Barry Forth, Copetown Woods Golf Course, the general manager, family owns it. Barry, going to break, we talked about pace of play. It's a problem everywhere,
Yep.
even on the PGA, LPGA, even on the pros circuits and so on. But you have thought out of the box. So tell us some of the things that you've done to help pace of play.
Yeah, so one of the big things. So when COVID happened, COVID changed a lot of things. COVID, it helped in a lot of ways for the golf industry, and certainly, filled our golf courses up. One of the things that happened during COVID is that we had to remove rakes out of bunkers. People weren't allowed to pull the pin. We had to, leave the pin in. A lot of different changes. When we went back to, starting to kind of get back to normal, if you will, the rakes in bunkers, we put them back in. People weren't doing anything with them. They had gotten used to that 2 years of, smooth it out, put the ball back, play it. And so I said to my golf course, my superintendent, I said, you know what, pull the rakes. And this isn't necessarily, by the rules of
Right,
golf.
of golf, yes.
And I've been made aware of that. But it's at the end of the day, kind of how we run our business is if it works well for us, and we want to keep with the traditions, but golf is not easy for everybody. Golf is difficult. Playing out of sand is hard especially for new golfers. With COVID came a ton of new golfers, and so why make it harder for yourself? So we don't have rakes in bunkers, and we're very unapologetic for it.
I love it.
And it's it helps. From a pace standpoint, it helps that you look for that one rake that's always on the wrong side of the bunker, always. So you go and you get that, you bring it back, and it helps from our standpoint as well, from our turf staff, our maintenance staff, getting off a cart, moving those 7 rakes around a bunker, cutting. When they're mowing, they cut, then they have to move those rakes back. So all of that, by the time you get 50, 60 bunkers on a golf course, that makes a significant difference in their time and how many hours they have to, it takes them to do their job. Well, if we can take that and pass those savings on to golfers as a public golf course, I think, it's a win-win.
I love the out-of-the-box thinking. It's very genius of you. So congratulations on that. And hopefully others will do things like that to do it, because after 4 hours, I get a little edgy playing out there. And, the other thing is none of us are playing to make money, right? Like we're doing this for recreation too and to have fun. We're not earning a living going out playing golf.
No, absolutely. And I say to my staff all the time, we have got the easiest job in the world. Every golfer is coming into our driveway thinking that today is their day. So if they're away from work, they're away from their chores at home, that's to start. But every time somebody drives in that driveway, today is their day that they're going to shoot their best score, and they might get a hole in one. Every golfer thinks the same way. So again, it's go out, enjoy yourself. Don't make it harder than it needs to be already. And that's all we're trying to do.
It's interesting when you say people driving in the driveway, they're already in a good mood and so on, but you've done some other things to help with the mood. There's music on the driving range and the first tee area and stuff like that. So tell me, have you got flack for that, or has that been well received?
So it's been extremely well received. There's been one person that had a problem with it, but he keeps coming back 3 days a week. So it must not be that big of a problem for him. But again, it's when I came back to take on the course, I sat down with my dad and I said, this, and this need to change. And he said, you've been here for 10 minutes and you've told me there's 5 things wrong with the place. And I said, well, buckle up, because I'm going to let you know tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And one of those things was, this place is really boring. There's no personality to it. And you're trying to be something that you're not. We're not a public golf course that has a private feel. We're a really good public golf course, full stop.
Yeah, that's awesome. So So people have been receptive to it. And
Yep.
do they have music on the carts and stuff too? Like, is that a no-no, or do you let them, if people bring their own speaker or something, they're allowed to do that?
Yeah, if people bring their own speaker, but as you said, we have music on the range, we have music by the putting green. So you get out of your car and that tone is set, the atmosphere, and I kind of hate using the word vibe and culture. But working at a sports marketing agency for 7 years, that's kind of driven into you a little bit. But that feel of the excitement, you get out of your car, it gives you that kind of what you're getting yourself into, and that's exactly what we want to do, and it's completely changed our demographic of golfers and in kind of how we present ourselves and the social media that I do and how I go about it. It has made a difference in the age of golfers. Our demographic has decreased, has
Yeah.
lowered in age.
That's what you want.
And yeah, exactly. And so it's everybody thinks of golf as this an old person sport. It certainly is not that.
Food is a big part too. We got to take a break. You have the best item on your menu coming up. We want to hear about it. We're going to hear more from Barry after this timeout. You're watching Canadian Innovators. Stay with us. Welcome back. Barry Forth is with us. It's golf season coming right around the corner, Canada, and Barry is the general manager of Copetown Woods Golf Course. We've talked a lot about golf, but food is important as well. My nephews love your course, and they also love the Cobb salad. What the heck? What's so great about the Cobb salad?
Food for us is it kind of just it completes that package, right? It gives you that opportunity to kind of sit and talk about all the putts that you missed when you're out playing. But that Cobb salad has turned into it's a craze. It's we have this deep fried soft boiled egg that I think if we could just sell that, we could put that on the menu and everybody would buy it. And I think the Cobb salad is maybe the only thing that maybe kind of separates us from our broccoli salad. Broccoli salad is something that has always been on the menu and always a
be
super popular popular item.
Exactly. Also, when you drive up, your clubhouse, Victorian style clubhouse, is eye-popping.
Yeah.
Tell us, whose idea was that and how you got that built?
Yeah, so prior to opening, a couple years before, my parents they drove down through the southern states and just drove in and out of golf courses, in and out of dozens of golf courses, and try to kind of get a feel of what things looked like, how things looked and felt. And we wanted to build something that would fit within the area. We didn't want something that was going to stick out like a sore thumb and something modern and concrete. We wanted something that would fit. And a lot of people come in and assume that that's been there for decades.
Right.
But we built that, and built it the winter of 2002 to open in June of 2003.
It is eye-popping,
yeah,
to say the least. So golf to me stands for great opportunities for lifetime friendships, GOLF.
Yep.
I think you've done that. Tell us about some of the people you've met that we probably would know through your Craft Hockeyville,
yep,
through owning the business, because I hear about you guys a lot on TSN.
Yeah, there's a lot of different people that through my time at the agency that I was at, and getting to know athletes and agents and broadcasters. The one thing that I always try to do is I always that network that I've built, I don't just kind of let it sit idle. And
right.
And I also have something that everybody loves. It doesn't matter if you're the richest hockey player or athlete in the world. If I can offer somebody a free round of golf, it's like the greatest thing in the world, even though our green fees are $70. And so, yeah, guys, James Duthie and his crew from TSN, they come out a fair amount, and we'll get some local the Ty Cats, Bo Levi and Stavro, those guys, they come out and play a lot, and so it's it's good. It's golf is a getaway for everyone, no matter what business, what industry you're in, and it's it's nice having those those guys out because they kind of help share the message that we're trying to put out there.
When you go away, so you can play your course whenever you want, but when you want to get away, where do you go to play golf?
I don't get away as often as I would like to. I've thought for years to, go and join a different club, because it's not super relaxing to play at our own golf course because your head's on a swivel watching what people are doing, watching what staff maybe aren't doing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of lucky in the Hamilton area to have some great, private and public golf course, whether, Beverly's right down the road from us. Dundas is a great option. Hamilton, obviously, getting into Burlington, and then, local from a public golf standpoint, Flambeau Hills, their property abuts right up to ours. Willow Valley's a great option. And again, when you start getting kind of into closer to that GTA, you get into so many different clubs that are, different options, different price points. And yeah, and if that $40 price point golf course, it's got a market for, they have their own market, and we've got our own. So there's plenty of good golf, and yeah, plenty of opportunity.
In 20 seconds, if you can do it, will your kids continue on in the business?
I think my oldest would be probably the one that I would say would maybe be the most interested. He's in school for sport management right now, but it's hard to say. It's I'm not pushing them to. The best thing
It's
that I
there.
did for myself, and the best thing that happened for our business, was me going away, me leaving for 7 years and coming back. I didn't. Now the
Yeah.
blinders were off, which is exactly what we needed.
Love it. Barry, appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks to Barry Forth, General Manager of Copetown Woods Golf Course, for joining us today. Thanks for watching. I'm Steve Foxcroft. See you next time.